Shalom, I'm Rabbi Jonathan Ginsburg of the Ezra Habanim Now's Township Jewish Congregation, Skokie, Illinois. This video is about the Jewish doctrine of resurrection. Maimonides, in his 13 Principles of Faith, written between 1135 and 1204, that's not PM and AM, that's the year, 1,000 years ago, he wrote about two of the doctrines that deal with this. Number 11 of his 13 was the principle of reward and punishment. And number 13 is that God resurrects the dead. Now, where is this in the Bible? Well, first of all, in the book of Ezekiel, chapter 37, the first 14 verses, God shows Ezekiel, who was a priest and a prophet in the Babylonian exile, after the temple was destroyed in 586 BCE, he showed him a valley of dry bones and made the bones come alive. Now, the rabbis in the Talmud, hundreds of years later, debated whether this was a metaphor, allegory. Did he really see it? And one rabbi said, no, it's just an allegory. An allegory for the end of that prophetic portion where God says these bones are the resurrected Jewish people who will be reunited in their homeland. And it was done to Ezekiel, for Ezekiel to give the people faith. But another rabbi said, no, it was actually a resurrection, and he was a descendant of the people resurrected. Now, what do we make of this? Well, I don't find it scientifically implausible. First of all, nothing's impossible for God. But clearly, if today scientists are cloning sheep, etc., you think they can't clone a human being eventually? There'll probably be armies of cloned human beings, although I'm not in favor of that eventually. And so God could have done it. God's been doing it forever, probably with no problem at all. But are there other levels and understandings? Also, in the book of Daniel, which the writer wants us to think was written during the Babylonian destruction of the temple in 586, but actually was written during the Maccabean revolt in the 2nd century BCE, Daniel has a clear sentence saying that those who sleep in the earth will be risen up. Now, of course, the most famous resurrection that Christians believe happened was Jesus being resurrected after he died. Jews believe in resurrection, they just don't think any of it's happened yet. It happened sometime in the future, but everyone who's righteous and decent, not only Jews, will be resurrected. Now, what does that mean exactly? Well, in other levels of understanding, what's the other levels of understanding the idea of resurrection? What could it be? Well, one idea is that we need to be resurrected while we're living, that perhaps we're dead to certain things, to God and to suffering in the world, and we need to be reawakened to that. But just on the level of really, is there resurrection? Some Jews believe it'll occur in the land of Israel. All resurrection will come from there, and if you're not buried there, you'll have to be brought there, and so there's a preference to be buried in Israel. And that's also why we bury people with, one of the reasons we bury people with land from Israel, earth from Israel, because of that. In addition, that's one of the reasons we're against cremation. It'll be so much tougher for God to put the bodies back together, not impossible, but tougher, and so it's better that the bodies not be expedited in that way, or accelerated in their demise to the earth. Okay, so do we really believe in resurrection? Well, it is a cardinal principle of faith. There are people who debate whether Maimonides meant it'll be literal, the body, or just the soul. All of Pharisaic Judaism, all Rabbinic Judaism, believed that the soul lives forever. It was just the Sadducees who died out who didn't believe in life after death. But all of Rabbinic Judaism believes in Olam Haba, the world to come. In fact, the Talmud says if you don't believe it, you don't get it. Now, maybe your rabbi didn't talk about it much in sermons. That's because we just don't have a lot of evidence. Jews have never had details about any of this, just the general broad principles, that the soul lives on, unless maybe if you're really bad, you don't get life eternal. We don't know. But certainly righteous people of all faiths get eternal life, the soul lives forever. And there isn't even this idea that perhaps a body joins the soul at some point. But certainly in this world, it gives us a notion that the body is precious and we should take care of it, because it houses the soul. Hope this helps explain a little bit about some of the basic Jewish ideas. It is founded in the Bible, in Ezekiel and Daniel. It is a very basic principle of the Talmud, and of course Maimonides' 13 Principles of Faith.